I'm here in Texas, and I've got some questions for anybody that wants to chime in. I'm wearing my Sunrun hat for the solar, but it's all crooked. Look, there's some equipment coming out that we all need to be aware of, and we need to discuss it. So I'm hoping to get some professional insight on this, and I'm going to explain what's going on in the code. So let me see if I can maybe get to a page in the book or something, because basically what's going on right now is there's a bunch of battery companies that are coming in, and just like Tesla, they're kind of pushing the narrative of what energy storage systems are. And at the end of the day, we got to look at the basics of the code to figure out exactly what the rules are and apply them to these energy storage systems that they're trying to implement. Basically, what I don't know if you're going to see this backwards or not. You probably are. I might need to switch it. But basically, a ESS system, which would be energy storage system per unit, if we look at the IRC, which is International Residential Code, the IRC says that per ESS, which energy storage system, you're allowed 20 kW. So that battery for, I'm going to try to put on the all messages, and I'm hoping that at some point somebody will see this and kind of chime in to help what's going on out, right? Because I'm fairly connected, and I think I'm probably going to blow this thing wide open with how these inspections need to start being handled, and even some of the equipment, whether or not we should actually allow it. So it's really going to shake up the whole battery storage world. When we look at batteries and stuff, we're going to look at energy storage. So we're going to go to E. And if we look at, there's equipment. So we might need to go just ESS, maybe, energy storage. Could be ESS. I'm trying to look for definitions here. Also waiting for someone to kind of chime in. Basically what it says is per energy storage system, you got 20 kW. And then per aggregate, we'll make that an A. Per aggregate, so like the whole premise can exceed 80 kW. And then we've got different rules. There's a chart in there that talks about 40 kW inside of the house, and you can put more in the garage. And basically what we can't have is more than 80 kW for a house. So your Tesla Powerwalls are 20 kW each, I believe, which means you can only have you can only have 4 total. You can't have 4 Tesla Powerwalls. So 4 Tesla Powerwalls equals 80 kW, right? So the maximum amount of Tesla Powerwalls that we can have is, yeah, math is hard, exactly, is 4 total. 4 total allowed. That says allowed. Per ESS, you can only have 20K. We've got companies right now. I can't tell you a company I work for. I'm an electrical inspector for a city. But running into this, and I'm going to tell you what I've kind of figured out. So basically, I've got a Sunrun hat on. Does that count? Okay. So basically, we've got these battery cabinets now. Solarc makes one. We could look up a Solarc here in a minute, but it's basically a cabinet. And inside of your Solarcs, you got batteries, and they got the jumpers, right? And they got the jumpers. And each one of those batteries is 5 kW. 5 kW, 5 kW, 5 kW, and 5 kW, which makes a total of 20 kW as the total for this battery cabinet, right? I would say that one of these is an energy storage system. I wouldn't say that each individual battery is an energy storage system. So when we have a cabinet like this and they have 6 batteries in here, and we're going to just put it in dots because it's not legal. That's proposed, right? 5 kW proposed. That's going to make 25 kW total. Well, what the code says is we can't exceed 20 kW per energy storage system. So let me find the code here about the energy storage system here. And energy storage system. So what it says here, one or more devices installed as a system capable of storing energy and providing electrical energy into premise wiring system. Now, premise wiring system, everything in the United States is based off of AC power. So there's going to be inverters as part of this system. You have one or more devices installed as a system capable of storing energy and providing electrical energy into the premise wiring system. The premise wiring system is, going to be AC power. So maybe if we look at premise wiring system, we could look at the definition there, maybe, to figure it out. I told you this was going to be really technical. So premise portable premise wiring system, interior exterior wiring, including power, lighting, control, and signal circuit wiring together with all their associated hardware fittings and wiring devices, both permanently and temporarily installed. This includes one of the following: wiring to the service point, which is 120, or power source to the outlets. And outlets is not receptacles, so don't get that confused. Outlets is a point where you take utilization of equipment. So outlets is not a receptacle. Outlets is just somewhere where we can get power from. You could have an AC condenser outlet if it's just a junction box. You could have a wire. You could have a lighting outlet. You could have a bunch of different outlets, right? Garbage disposal outlet for a switch. You don't. We're not talking about receptacles when they say outlets. And then wiring from and including the power source to the outlets where there is no service point. Such wiring does include wiring internal to appliances, luminaires, motors, controllers, motor circuits. So I already talked about that just now. Clarified that. Like 200 amps, 20 kW, like 200 amps. 20 kW is in kilowatt hours. So not exactly. We're talking more of battery performance for 20 kW. You could say 200 amps, but time is also involved here. So because it's a battery, we're dealing with the time that you're going to dissipate the battery to. So just like solar is in kW. Thought you were talking about a Tesla charger. We are. So no, not a Tesla charger. We're talking about Powerwalls, Tesla batteries. So Powerwalls, a Tesla Powerwall. They're actually, they put out less, but they're rated at 20, I believe. I think they're like 13.5 kW or something. Can't really remember. I was hoping someone would be in here to help me out here. But they're rated for 20 kW, but they put out less than 20. Teslas do. We can't exceed 80 per aggregate. So for the whole premise, the whole house, we can't have 20 kW of battery backup or energy storage. So now that we define the energy storage is 2 or more things that supply power to the building, right? You're talking about a battery and an inverter. to supply power because you're going to need AC power. So an ESS would be a battery. ESS would be some kind of battery plus an inverter to get to the AC power. Per ESS, you're talking 20 kW. When you look at some of these Solarcs or something like that, you might have 4 batteries plugged in. That's going to give you 5 kW each. That's going to give you 20 kW. So you could say this Solarc is one ESS at 20 kW. And then we could have up to 4 of these, which would equal 80 kW total. But what happens when you take a Solarc and you put 6 batteries in here? Now we're at 25 kW, which we can't have more than 25 kW per ESS. So someone chime in at some point later when we're not live, whenever. Am I on the right page here? This would be considered one ESS. And if you put more than 4 or 5 kW batteries in this thing, this ESS is no longer compliant, because there's companies out there that are trying to submit this. Also, there's something else that a lot of companies are trying to submit. So if we look over here, we now have this 63 amp breaker that we got to deal with. That's exactly right, Tire Tread. So we got a 63 OCPD now. That's bidirectional. So it feeds the batteries, but also the batteries feed the grid with it. So because we have 63 amps here, we have to look at all the rules for 63 amps, which would be the 250.122, which would be the ground wire size for the EGC has to be number 8, not number 10, because it's a 63 amp breaker, not a 60. So we're over 60 amps. Got to be number 8. So on these, what are they called? Solar Edge. Solar Edge has one. Solar Edge now has a gateway, we'll call it. Has a 63 amp overcurrent device is 63 amps. So that equals number 8. Number 8. EGC. And it also equals a 100 amp disconnect. Not a 60. Because you're 63 amps. So you can't put 63 amp breaker on a 60 amp disconnect. It just makes sense. So now we got to do a 100 amp disconnect. We got to do a number 8 EGC. And we've got to do 63 amps of wire. Let's see here. So yeah, number 6 would be okay. Number 6 should be okay because it's not a vehicle charger. It's basically a feeder. No, it's AC. It's an AC breaker there. But they've got a very special 63 amp breaker now in a lot of these gateways. So inside the gateway, if I'm going to draw this correctly, this is called, we'll just call this the house. There's your house right there, right? And this is going to be the grid. We'll draw that as the meter. And then the other side of this switch is going to be the batteries. So no matter any way we dice it, this is the pivot point here. Any way we dice it, the house is getting power either from the meter or it's going to get power from the batteries. I'm not calling out any companies here. I'm only calling out SolarEdge, and we've called out Solarc only. So I don't know anything about any other companies that you're talking about, sir. I don't want to get into that. I just want to talk about really common ones that everybody knows that are also doing the same thing or could possibly. So if we have, there's Preston. So the total aggregate load for a house for solar is 80 kW, right? That's the total. So for Tesla Powerwalls, we can only install 20 kW per ESS. SolarEdge does use 63s. Yes, it does. Yeah, exactly. So they're in the same territory as this, man. They need a number 8 EGC and they need a 100 amp disconnect because it's bi-directional. So you can't put a 60 amp disconnect on the SolarEdge 63 amp breaker. Okay, so per ESS, right? ESS would be defined as a battery and an inverter. Per ESS, we can only have, what would happen if you did? You'd be 3 amps over, probably nothing, but we can't think like that because we need China to sell 63 amp disconnects. That's exactly right. What's up, man? What's up, Budsville? So yeah, it's a 63 amp breaker. You got to go to the next size up. You can't go backwards. You got to go up. So we need 100 amp disconnects. We need number 8 wire, and we need a couple of other things, right? So the energy storage system, if we take a Solarc energy storage system where you got multiple cards, we can slide in batteries as cards into this mainframe almost, right? It just plugs in. And then you run your jumpers. And each battery that you slide into this case is 5 kW. Once you add that 5th battery, your entire ESS battery case is now 25 kW, which we can't do. The maximum per ESS is 20 kW. So there's some companies that have 25 kW batteries ready to rock and roll. I don't think we can do that. Then you got the 63 amp breaker. Then you need the number 8 ground because number 8 is good for 100 amps. We can't use the 60 amp ground, which would be number 10. And then you need a 100 amp disconnect. You can't use a 60 amp disconnect. So there's a lot going on with, I want some solar this year to cut down on electric. Yeah. What I did, man, I knocked about, I almost took off 900 kW, 900. Yeah, kW, 900. Yes, 900 kW. That's what I took off. That's crazy. I took off 900 kW just by doing occupancy sensors and timers. You don't know how it works with the way that all the companies integrated into the grid and do all that. Yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole, man. Probably smaller panels for lighting around the house. Oh, you want to go off grid? You can't go off grid legally unless you're already off grid. Just a few panels for free lighting. Yeah, I got you. I got you. Just don't let your house burn down, man. The insurance company won't cover it. So, yeah, somebody in the know hopefully will jump in here. Oh, here we go. I worked for a company who did Enphase, and we had more internal system problems than anything. One site was fine 90% of the time, but the software was trash. That also checks out, man. But I would say Enphase is probably the easiest one to work with because it's like Lego. It's all once you get your microinverters, your AC power, and I mean you're just pretty much just combining. You're already in phase with whatever you're trying to attach. Yeah, I bet the software is a nightmare on any of that. I bet the software is a nightmare. Wire the panel to the outside and have lights inside. That's so complicated, man. You need so much overcurrent protection. There's a lot that goes on when you start doing off grid because you need a charge controller and you need some batteries and you can do it. It's just you'd be better off just getting a just get you like one of those standalone systems like an EcoFlow or something with a couple of batteries and then just do the proprietary, like just use their panels and plug in their panels with your EcoFlow and make your own separate panel off grid and then wire a couple of things to that. That's probably what you should do if you're going to do anything. All those batteries, gas generator. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I was hoping someone would chime in here because this is fixing to come down pretty quickly. I've been doing a lot of inspections here lately on a lot of this stuff. I've caught a lot of this stuff, and I don't know if anyone else is catching this stuff. So probably fixing to shake up the industry. Yeah, we'll see you later, Buzzville. Gas generator better off in long term. It depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to offset your bill, you can offset your bill, but you got to know what you're doing. Like back in 2018, it was doable to offset your bill. Now, companies are charging you an extra $20 a month just to store your credits. This stuff is way more expensive, and it's a lot tighter margins to try to offset your bill or even break even now. You're really just breaking even and trading an electric bill for a solar bill. Thanks for the show. Appreciate it. Hopefully someone chimes in on this. Let me know about to follow up here. We've got the maximum energy storage system allowance per the International Residential Code is 20 kW. Then you've got some of these battery storage banks, if you will, with more than 20 kW. So for me, I think that this is an energy storage system and you flat out can't do it. Then you got Tesla Powerwalls. They're sitting at 20 kW each, so you can only have a maximum of 4 Tesla Powerwalls at your house. You can't exceed 80 kW per house, per property. And then you've got some of these countries with 63 amp OCPDs. 63 amps is more than 60 amps, which requires a number 8 ground, 100 amp disconnect, And yeah, I was going to draw in the 63 amp on this thing, but I never got around to getting to do it. But basically the way that it ties in, the 63 amp is here. So you've got a breaker here of 63 amps. And when everything is running normal, this thing's all kind of tied together. So the battery's getting power from the grid, and the grid is feeding the house. And then when you lose power, this thing switches directly to here exclusively. And that way you can't backfeed battery power back to the grid. But when this thing is charging, it's charging at 63 amps. And when you're off grid, you are putting out 63 amps. So your OCPD here is relevant in every scenario. And then once you leave this, right before you get to the house, you got a disconnect here that ties to the panel of your house and everything else, right? Before the breaker. And this should be a 100 amp rated disconnect. So yeah, someone chime in and let me know, what do you think an ESS is? Is it each individual battery? Or is it the combined load of all the individual batteries stacked up into one unit? I think that's the case right here. Let's see here. Okay, that's all I got. We're getting off here. Somebody hopefully answer the question. We'll see you guys later.